everybody. Thanks for joining us for a quick update about one of our unique classes at AIM Academy. Joining me today is Dr. Lauren Bales, who I affectionately know as Lauren because I've known her for a very long time. Lauren is a homeschool graduate and was a member of our homeschool co-op, and she and my daughter, Catherine, who was a math teacher for AIM, were very close friends all through high school and college, and they both went in to Teach for America following college. And Lauren taught in Brooklyn and has continued to be very involved with youth at risk, which is something I deeply admire about Lauren. She eventually made her way to the Ohio State University, where she was a scholarship recipient, one of their top scholarship prizes, and completed her PhD there in, I believe, educational leadership. Am I correct, Lauren?
Education policy and leadership, yeah.
Great. And now you're a tenured track professor at University of Delaware, correct?
I am, yeah. It's really good to be with you, and nice to think about all of those very happy memories that we have.
Yeah, so Lauren has also been teaching for AIM Academy on and off throughout her post-high school journey, and really glad that she still finds time in her very busy schedule to teach for AIM Academy, because this is the kind of teacher I really want to get in front of your children, and I'll tell you why. Lauren is just one of the most prolific writers and researchers I know. She is publishing, she's teaching, she's advocating, she's really a role model, especially for young women of academics that are rising and making a difference. And what Lauren, it lives and breathes, is research and publishing her research. And so in trying to figure out where Lauren could best fit into AIM Academy and our overall goals, we realized that her introduction to research writing was really something that we needed to leverage, because it's a skill that no one else has like Lauren has, as far as in terms of getting somebody to work with your kids on research writing and academic writing. Lauren's living and breathing that, and she's not really that far removed from your own children's high school experiences. She's a very, very young academic, very accelerated pathway that she took through her post-high school curriculum. In fact, one thing I wanted to ask you, Lauren, how many college credits do you recall that you had when you graduated high school?
It was nearly 70. I think it was 66 or 69.
Yeah, like, so there's this is an overachiever, and Lauren had an active social life and was, you know, was very involved in clubs and all those things, but she's somebody who kind of lives the AIM Academy dream in terms of taking her high school work and converting it into college credit. And because she did that, and she was so strategic, it really opened up an awful lot of opportunities for her. So, Lauren, first of all, I'd like you just to say hi to everybody, maybe add a little bit to the background I just gave on you, and then I'll ask you a couple questions about why we are emphasizing research writing at AIM Academy, okay? So, tell us more about yourself.
Well, thank you again for such a wonderful introduction. My name is Lauren Bales. I have a PhD in Ed Policy and Leadership, as Deb mentioned. I'm now a tenure track faculty member at University of Delaware, where I work in the School of Education with doctoral students. So I teach in the core program there, and I teach them how to write nonfiction, and particularly research writing as well. So this is something that I have done at all levels. So I was a 7th grade ELA teacher in Brooklyn, New York. I have since coached teachers across the K-12 spectrum and worked with students at all grade levels. And now I work with doctoral students and supervise some undergraduates for my own research as well. So this is something that not only do I really love and find a lot of gratification in, but I think it is really a powerful way of advocating for the solutions you want to see brought to fruition in the world. So As Deb mentioned, I have been reading and writing for a very long time, but I have found lots of opportunities to connect this to the things that I care about. So whether it's interacting with people in my local city council or talking with newspapers about policy changes that are good for my city, this is a writing skill that not only opened academic pathways for me, but has really been a vehicle of advocacy in my life.
Okay, thanks so much, Lauren. Hey, so tell us why research writing, I mean, why should homeschool parents be looking to help their kids acquire skill in this particular discipline? And maybe you should probably define it too. But even as early as middle school, you know, like why are we talking about not just having this one mini course, but having an entire track for academic writing, for research writing?
Yes, of course. So I think one of the definition of research writing is using existing literature or existing research to synthesize an argument. And I usually orient that around a problem and solution. So for my students, all of their research originates with a problem that they care about. For some of them, it's highly localized, something in their neighborhood or county. And for some, it's global. So the ways in which we do crop dusting, for example. So if we can think about these as problems and solutions, we can really personalize them. And then the next step is going out and identifying what's already been done, what's been successful or what hasn't been in addressing these problems. And the reason I think this is so critical, I think there are at least two reasons. So first, there's such a strong connection between the clarity of thinking and the clarity of writing in this genre. So if we can teach even as early as middle school how to establish an argument, develop a thesis, identify and use reliable sources to support that argument, and to refute counter-arguments, then we're not only building good writing skills, but we're building good thinking skills. And then the second, I think, is there's just an increasing emphasis on this kind of writing in every content at the college level and beyond. So in thinking about what are the advantageous skills for graduate school and for careers, it's technical writing and it's research writing. So having a leg up on those skills going into the college level, I think is essential.
And recently we had a faculty meeting. We met in departments, and I even was talking about intro to research writing and our plans for building on that and future mini courses that are more advanced and intermediate. Like our faculty are excited about this because even in like science and history and the art, whatever other discipline kids might be passionate about, research writing or learning how to put your thoughts, learning how to think critically and how to decide, okay, what do I really believe, or what conclusion do I think I should draw from this evidence? Learning how to express yourself in writing in the different disciplines is something that you do even in high school now. I mean, a good college prep high school program, history class or science class is going to have a writing component to it.
Yes, I agree. And I think to add to that, when we think about kind of issues of media literacy and being able to discern what's reliable and valid, these are hard skills, and I think getting harder all the time. So getting accustomed to evaluating the quality of your sources is not just something that's useful for research writing, but it's useful for engaging media and conversations much more broadly, but particularly useful here.
Yes, you and I have liked to have conversations about just the whole pedagogy of learning and even the role of writing. I mean, this is such, folks, this is what's ahead for you. Like homeschool graduates grow up and become the most interesting adults. And it is really so, Lauren is, she holds a special place in my heart, but she's not that unusual. I mean, her brothers are equally fascinating and accomplished and phenomenal to engage. My own children are fun to have conversations with. Their childhood friends have all grown up and done well, and they all have really great ideas and are fun to talk with. And I think that research writing is one gateway into the broader conversation, right? It's just one tool by which kids can learn how to engage on issues that they really care about, or that they want to understand more deeply, or they want to influence others to concur with them, right? And so we really want to help equip our students with this. So let's talk about Intro to Research Writing.
Okay.
It's the introductory course, right? And it's a 7-week course. Kind of lay it out briefly for parents, and then I'm going to show some of the finished products that come out of that class.
Wonderful. So it is a 7-week course, which means it's highly compressed. So we do a lot in those 7 weeks, but every student who's gone through that class has a couple of products they can be really proud of, and I think a strong foundation in the skills that we were just talking about. So the first couple of weeks are all about establishing that argument and identifying the relevant and reliable sources, as well as getting really comfortable with the citation manuals. So typically I give students a choice of whether they want to use APA or MLA, that's the American Psychological Association, or the Modern Language Association. Most high schoolers are using MLA at this point, but I think the exposure just to the nuances of the style manuals is important. So we spend a lot of time establishing a problem, establishing reliable evidence, and then we talk about the structure of the paper. So good research writing is good argumentation. So we spend a couple of weeks on the outlines, how we go forward, thinking about how do we want to develop this progression of evidence, what's useful, how do we develop these transitions. And then the final 2 products are a research paper. So typically these are somewhere between 8 and 10 pages with proper citation, proper formatting. And then the other one is a research poster. And if you're not familiar with a research poster, this is a tool that researchers use typically in conferences or other professional or academic settings to really distill the body of the argument into its most important pieces. So what's the argument? What are the most salient pieces of evidence? And what are the findings? And so my students leave with both of those products. And I think Deb's going to share one in just a minute, but they are really exceptional. So I'm excited to talk about some of these.
Yeah, let me just show a couple of these. And while I'm showing these, you know, Lauren, talk to the parent who's going to feel like, oh gosh, my kid is just not ready for something like this.
Sure.
It's going to be threatening or scary on some level. I know that you care a whole lot about students feeling comfortable.
I do.
I apologize for, well, I'm trying to get this so I can show it.
That's okay. So one of the things that I think makes this class so accessible is the fact that we start with a problem and solution that the students tend to care about. And so the benefit of that is typically if they care about that, they already have some background knowledge. So I'm asking them to engage more deeply with things they've already, in most cases, begun to think about. So that's I think the first point of access that really serves a lot of students well. So we have students who talk about, as you'll see, plastics. We have a lot of environmental concerns. There have been some about things like fast fashion or the use of GMOs in food. So just really interesting, really thorough treatments of some of these topics. The other thing that I think might be comforting is I am very accustomed to scaffolding all of these things for students. So for almost every part of the process, there are templates, there are sort of questionnaires to help them dive more deeply. There are self-assessments where they can check their own work and engage with their classmates about things like the thesis statement, if they're tackling all the pieces of it. So there are lots of ways for them to improve over the course of the 7 weeks, but also to kind of find a foothold at whatever level they currently, whatever skill set they currently have, and then grow that over the 7 weeks.
Let's look at one here, Lauren. How about this one? Can you just kind of unpack a little bit, like all that went into this? Do I have it big enough for people to see, do you believe?
I think if you could, yeah, I can see it now.
Okay, how about that? Is it
okay?
screen
So
for you?
this one, So we think about a couple of things when we put together the posters. So one, we think about, does this capture the argument? And would this be accessible for someone who had no expertise and no background knowledge? So one thing that I think is really exceptional here is this is all formulated around a series of questions. So why focus on the plastic? What's it harming, etc. And so this student really captured that argument and the progression of her evidence using a few short questions. We also think about these as visual messaging. So in the same way that we have a structured argument in the paper, we have a structured argument communicated much more visually in these posters. So you can see that this is designed really well. So it has a couple of engaging and relevant images. It has a few additional graphics to kind of punctuate some of the statistics. And then it has several bullet points. So it's not overly wordy, it's attractive, it's easy to move through, and it really does an excellent job of capturing the most salient findings and the best parts of the argument.
What I liked a lot about the posters too is the ones that integrated in data and graphs and kids learning. Like, this is what's new. I think since I left the classroom and was teaching writing, what has really changed is that now when you teach kids to write, you have to teach them how to integrate information visually, right?
Yeah.
Data visualization.
Yeah.
It's so much of a synthesis of images and data that is expressed visually in graphs and charts and writing, technical writing.
Yeah.
And I think I know I, as a parent, was not aware of that when I started teaching AP English. I realized I had to teach my students how to synthesize. So kids are really in this introduction to research writing. In 7 weeks, they are acquiring a lot of skill that they can then deploy. Talk about, though, what's going to come next. So just briefly, where are we going next? Lauren, what's our game plan long-term for research writing at AIM Academy?
Yes, so this is really exciting. So the plan is to take this from one introductory course to a whole sequence. So in the same ways that we think about much of our content along a scope of development, we are beginning to think about research that way. So the goal is to have 3 classes, and we'll start with a problem and solution paper and presentation for middle schoolers. So in some of the ways that we talked about this being a skill that you want to start really early, our plan is to do that. So for middle schoolers, this will be beginning to read and synthesize sources. It'll be more of a summary skill at that point, and they will produce a presentation that makes an argument and a short piece of writing that does the same thing. And then the current iteration of the intro class will be kind of a level 2, so it'll be a mid-range. So students will continue to produce an 8 to 10 page research paper and the poster. And then we have the advanced research writing. So the goal of this class is to really accelerate the research writing that they do in level 2. So we'll take that and we will extend the length of the paper. Students have at that point the option to do some of their own research. So whether it's some survey development and analysis or some more qualitative measures, we'll talk a little bit about what those things are. And then the other exciting thing about that advanced piece is it will be aligned to the AP research portfolio. So if your student is thinking about getting some credits the same way I did and the same way Catherine did going into college, this is one way to do that. So for those of you who might be unfamiliar, the AP research class is a portfolio and a presentation. So our rubrics for the advanced research class will be aligned with those, and students will not only get the practice with the writing, but the practice with the research methodology itself, as well as the presentations of those.
So I hope folks here are as excited as I am about this, or at least
I really am too.
Yeah, you're intrigued by our passion. Like Lauren and I really believe in this. We really think it makes a difference.
So much,
Not just for kids who might want to become English majors.
No,
not at all.
yeah.
These are for the STEM-focused kids just as much. These are for anybody who thinks that they want to kind of research career, whether it's investigative research or they're going to go in the medical fields and they're going to do research in a laboratory, learning how to write up your findings, how to synthesize the research that's already done, how to add your own unique ideas on top of that and be a part of the
Yeah.
scholarly conversation, there are hundreds of ways in which this skill in particular can direct your children's paths or position your children to really achieve their potential in the future. And
Yeah.
these are 21st century skills. Like, this is
Yeah.
the future that all of our kids who are going to plan on going to college are going to be making these kinds of posters that Lauren is introducing in her class.
Yeah.
This kind of synthesis writing. So Lauren, thanks so much for taking the time today to kind of capture for folks in a video format some information about this class. So folks, we're running the class now year-round. That's how important we think it is. So there are 5 mini course sessions at AIM Academy, and you can take Intro to Research Writing every session, just like my daughter Catherine's SAT math prep, which kids have taken repeatedly. It is possible for kids, while we're rolling out these upper and lower level courses that are going to bracket this Intro to Research, you might want to take Intro to Research with Dr. Bales more than once, because she's going to take you where you are and move you forward, just like we do in SAT math. You know, we're going to take the student where that student is currently at skill-wise, and within the context of the class, we're going to individualize or customize the learning process so that all of our students are making gains and having some kind of personalized experience within the context of a conventional classroom. So
that's really what this is about. Absolutely.
Great. Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Take care.